So hello everybody, my name is Evgenia and some of you know me from long time and some we're just meeting first time today. I'm really grateful for your presence today and I'm grateful for this community growing every day more and more. I'm an artist currently based in Portugal, in Ericeira. And I'm working on a project called Eternal Forest, which is an ongoing artistic multidisciplinary project which aims to create 1,000 eternal forest sanctuaries and to protect them for 1,000 years across the globe. And later on, I'm going to pop some links in so you can have a look at the presentations. And this is an Eternal Forest conversation, which is a monthly regular conversation which happens roughly around the new moon cycle. And every time what I'm doing is I'm inviting someone who is linked already to Eternal Forest Project or somebody who is working in a similar dimension, in a similar direction, be it a scientist, a researcher, an artist, an organization planting trees. These conversations are meant to bring all of us together, to build community, to explore various ideas, and to create new partnerships and collaborations. So, first of all, today when I was thinking about this conversation and I was preparing for this talk, I was sitting here with a sensation that I would like to acknowledge this very special moment in history, very special moment that touches all of us, regardless wherever you are right now in the world. The time of great change, great sadness, and grief and loss, and which is connected, of course, to the loss of human lives. A lot of people are suffering, are sick, or are dying, but at the same time, what cannot be not seen is that the huge losses we are witnessing in biodiversity. And what I'm feeling and what I'm sensing and what I think more people are ready to accept is that only with us really shifting and changing how we are with the natural world, these kind of situations that we are facing now might change or not change. So a lot of scientists are saying that this wave of virus, of pandemia, is really due mainly to loss of the wildlife and our encroachment on the wildlife and loss of biodiversity and destruction of ecosystems. And a lot of scientists are also acknowledging that there will be other waves. So what they're calling for is really, in principle, at the very foundation of our being in nature and with nature, to reconsider how we are. And this is really high time for that. And so perhaps there is a focus that is shifting right now, and hopefully more people are seeing that focus towards intentions and energy to restore our living ecosystems, of which we are, of course, part of. And today I'm really grateful and I'm happy to host Alan Tod, forest artist. He calls himself a forest artist. And let him share with us his multifaceted journey, the journey that embraces art, ecology, law, the love for nature and for forests, and his various artworks in different dimensions that he has created so far. And we are going to take some time for me to introduce Eternal Forest Project properly, especially for those of you who hear about it first time. And then in the second part of this conversation, we will give fully stage for Alan, virtual stage. So what is an Eternal Forest, first of all? And why I'm working on it every day, 24 hours a day. So Eternal Forest proposes to create protected sanctuary forest spaces spaces for our deeper sacred connection with nature, which we keep losing and we keep severing. This art project has started as my own exploration and my own kind of momentum when I moved to Portugal to try to understand why the ecosystems are lost so quickly and why we're actually not creating more forests or helping more forests, but instead we are going in quite opposite direction. So it started with exploring the life of communities next to widespread monocultures all around Portugal, which are connected with exodus from the countryside, increase of forest fires, and basically more and more monocultures every year. However, this work, as it continued to grow, it led me to really believe that raising awareness through film, artistic, visual works, poetry, conversations is just not enough. So I realized that probably I would love to work on physical interventions. And at the beginning, I was kind of skeptical. I thought, well, who am I to do all of that? I'm just an artist. But then gradually, I realized that perhaps this is really the time for us to kind of make a stand and to make certain decisions in terms of, well, go from kind of talking to doing. And of course, we know that there has been done a lot of work in ecological art, land art, multidisciplinary art, which embraces the thinking and the doing and moves from kind of conceptual ideas towards interaction and collaboration and co-creation with the ecosystem. So I kind of stepped on that pathway through creating a proposal for an eternal forest sanctuary. And just to give you like a brief vision for what a sanctuary is, it's basically focused around the idea of bringing art, community, and ecology together and creating a dedicated space where biodiversity will be restored, highlighted, and protected through community engagement and through artistic creative engagement facilitated directly by artists, either local or international artists who can come to that kind of place and help co-create it. And I worked in an area of Coruche, which is very, it's a central Portugal. For those of you who have never been to Portugal, it's quite dry area already. It's above Alentejo, but it's already kind of marked by these ecosystems of Montado, which are already quite degraded, and certain areas of Montado are going towards deforestation, degradation. They are lacking water, biodiversity, and soils are incredibly poor. And that's how the project started. This year, I'm going back to reestablish eternal forest poetry walk in the area where I worked, where there will be a protected forest space created by a municipality. However, from that one kind of space, from that one little source and heart where the whole project emerged, I decided to move on. And instead of saying, well, let's just create only one place, why don't we create actually many of them? So to cut the long story short, it took me about 1 year and a half to basically sit down, work with different people, have a series of conversations, read through a whole lot of literature, and come up with that perspective of what if we could create in the next 2-3 years, and that's what I'm doing right now with my team, a series of these sanctuaries. And what if we could co-create them with artists, with communities, with local organizations? What if we could embed into this process a blueprint which we could then learn from various ecosystems, various ways of approaching community and working together. And then we could capture that knowledge and wisdom in the way that it could be then shared and promoted across the world. And of course, every place has its own dream. Every place has its own story. Every place has its own future, which wants to become reality. And every place will have its own guardians. I call them circle of guardians. Just to give you a couple of examples, in Ericeira, I'm working directly with my local community. So I'm basically calling out to people to see if they're interested to become the closed circle, to be able to take this project forward, to find the land, to find the legal basis under that project, to establish an organization, because there needs to be some organization that holds that land and ensures its protection. Talk to local municipality, and then organize series of events to include larger community. And so we go like that. I'm talking to a few other organizations in the north, in the south, in the west, basically everywhere in Portugal, and we're starting to receive some interest from places all around the world. We have here on the call also an artist from Scotland, and we just had a conversation recently, and it seems like there is interest to create an eternal forest sanctuary there. So this work keeps going. My vision is that artists play a crucial role in this work, in this movement. I'm hoping that it will be a movement that other people will pick it up and say, well, I'm here in my community, I can do this as well. And my hope that this work will be truly collaborative and co-creative with nature. So what I'm inviting everybody to do, and this is of course a long process for myself, for my own personal spiritual work, but also I'm inviting others to go deeper, to really listen to nature, to really listen to the plants, to listen to the dream of the land where they feel that dream can be realized. And for me, that works through connection with plants, through connection with trees. And one thing I can share with you, which was incredibly inspiring for me last year, and it keeps going, it keeps continuing, is trees always reaching out. They're always talking to us. Other beings are talking to us if we listen. So at the beginning, I was a bit skeptical when I saw first time tree in my dream, and okay, I'm a poet. I took it as a poetic inspiration, and it became part of the Eternal Forest Manifesto, which is kind of at the core of the project. But then more things started happening, more trees started popping up in my consciousness, in my dreams, in my walks in the forest, in the plantations. Even last year I worked even with the not very loved tree in Portugal, eucalyptus tree, which caused a lot of conflict around this project and a lot of questions. But I trust the being of, and I trust the spirit of that being, that they have a lot to give, they have a lot to communicate, and they actually do want to work with humans. And this is really high time when we can really open these doors wide and say, well, what happens if we just listen? What if we could go to that extent and to receive them as guardians, as advisors, as wisdom keepers? It's not just the human beings who are the wisdom keepers in this case. So, as I already mentioned to you right now, in the next 2 years, I'm going to focus on putting together the team, creating that basis for the blueprint to emerge, and then going with several locations, primarily in Portugal, but also in a couple of other places in Europe, to create that basis, that foundation, that container for Eternal Forest to truly become something bigger than just one sanctuary. And so in a way, I'm sharing with you a potential invitation to think, to consider, to look around and to see, what if there was a land around you? What if your community could be ready for something like this? What if you knew artists who are truly connected and want to go and explore forest ecology deeper? And what if you could be an instigator in your own community, a leader for such a project? What if you knew a few organizations who could actually help and promote project like this? So for now, this is it. This is what I wanted to share with you without kind of going too much in details. I think there will be some time for questions after Alan's presentation to maybe ask both Alan and myself what questions you're holding and what clarifications you would like to have. I'm getting a lot of messages right now. I'm going to have a look at them in a moment. What I would like to suggest, maybe so that we as like a new circle of people today, this constellation, get to know each other a little bit. I would like to invite you to, I'm going to put you in breakout rooms and I'm going to let you talk to each other. I'm also going to join one of the rooms. And I would like to suggest one thing. Hold on, while somebody else is coming. So my suggestion is the following. When we enter the breakout room, when you enter a smaller circle, please introduce yourself and maybe do like a really brief introduction of your name, who you are, and what you're working on. And then the question and the proposition I would love you to consider is, what do you feel is forest art, or why could forest be art? And what is the role of forest artist? Let's pretend, let's imagine, maybe you don't know nothing about it, or maybe you know something about it. I would love to encourage you to really step into that question with your being in the now and your intuition, and really things that kind of will come up in your psyche. Maybe it's certain emotions, maybe it's a certain vision. If you see something quite concrete, this is kind of things I would love you to share. I would love you to practice a little bit of deep listening. So when somebody is speaking, really listen with your full being and let the whole circle be complete. So be mindful about time and let everybody speak. And when we come back, then I will ask some of you to share what you felt and what came up for you, what ideas you saw that are really bright and interesting and you want to share back. So it will be 15 minutes. I give you some good time for that. And so now it's 26 past, so we come back at roughly 20 before 8. And so I'm going to send you to breakout rooms. I hope it works.
In each of our lives, the nature makes a big part. And that is good. Also, I like to be with people where nature makes part. And yeah. It was not so much the forest and art, but I think in each of us, yeah, the plants and to be active, it was very present in each of from our 4 we were together. It was very nice, very sympathetic.
Thank you. Someone else?
I think in our group, one of the things that came up was we did seem like we're all involved in nature already, as was said, but I think also everyone thought that if they'd been making work already in a particular way that might be environmental, that now they were looking much more at art actually being just involved with nature. So like you're talking about planting, you know, and nurturing nature, and that is now the art. It's about the involvement and the nurturing more than it is making an object or putting that object somewhere or, you know, selling anything. It's about involvement, you know, and action.
Thank you. So maybe someone else can share, and then someone else can share from our group as well. I would love.
I would have plenty to share, except I was late to this. I wish I was on time. My phone is getting crazy, and I just got my phone back from Apple. But so not much to share. I mean, I like I said, plenty to share, I'm sure, but I don't know what's been discussed to this point, so I'll have to catch up later.
Yeah, there was a little provocation which I decided to do even before Alan starts his presentation, and the provocation was to think about forest as art, and that forest is art, and what a forest artist might be. And why would we even consider that whole?
I'm familiar a little with just seeing what he's done. You know, I haven't seen in much detail, but I have an obsession with my biggest passion is horticulture. So I've always felt this way since I was a child. So. And now it's interesting. I am at a point in my life because of the pandemic that I live in New York, and so there's no work there. So I'm in Florida now, and I've just started to garden I'm landscaping my mother's property, but I'm also landscaping where I'm staying now, and I'm keep finding my passion is rare horticulture, the things that you don't see normally, and it's a wild ride because no matter how much I think I've seen, there's always something new. And I'm unclear as to the art and how. I mean, I'm very clear that for horticulture in general is art, but I just wonder, is it just the observation of the art within the forest, or is it, because I believe, if I'm not mistaken, Alan is in fact in sort of is any of it staged or sort of created, or how, that nature isn't doing itself? I mean, is it sort of creating art with plants and sort of, I mean, as a gardener, you can do that. You create topiaries, so I don't know what, I should have probably done my homework.
Well, thank you so much, and I think it's really leading us towards the second part of our conversation. So what I'm going to do now is, before we move on, I'm going to, while you are all here and while nobody is leaving early, I'm going to insert into the chat, and you can copy paste. I can also save the chat. There's some information about Eternal Forest, about which I was talking before. There's all different ways to follow, to subscribe to YouTube, Instagram, and Facebook. You can enter Facebook group, and there is a lot going on. It's also the way I'm building community currently. And so you can look at various presentations and can find out more about the project. So it's you can just copy paste and have a look later at the work done so far. And so finally, I would love to pass it over to Alan and let him share with us his journey, his work, his passion, his inspiration. I would love to say that I personally feel incredibly blessed and excited, because by the time I started my journey quite intuitively and just through the motivation of understanding why things like they are, and that journey started in Portugal. I also met Alan. We just only met online, so we have never met like really in person, and I'm looking forward to that. And I think COVID is kind of slowing this process down because we are in the same country. But when I met Alan, what I want to say is I felt incredibly inspired. I felt much more happy and confident because, and of course we had some conversations. I felt like wait a second, it's not just ecology and art. It's not just the land art that is transforming into something else. It's not just we are working in kind of different sections and silos, and I'm working here and you're working there. What we kind of roughly agreed in one of our first conversations, that perhaps, and this is an opening question again, perhaps there is an emerging movement, and perhaps there is a whole bunch of people who already call themselves forest artists or something like this. And yeah, who we are and what we're here to do, what kind of role we're here to play, and what is it that we can contribute with, and how. So over to you, Alan. Please welcome Alan Tod, and we're ready to hear from you.
Hello. So I think I'm gonna share tonight with you my portfolio, but before doing it, I wanted to say that I'm coming from painting. So I have studied the history of painting. I have read a lot of texts from the master of history, from Leonardo da Vinci to Delacroix to Van Gogh. I mean, I did a lot of theory of painting, and I was always trying to understand and to focus about collective imaginary and mass manipulation and what will be the new emerging art. So it was my focus during many years. I worked with sociology of imaginary in La Sorbonne to understand how the new art can emerge and create new movements. And then suddenly I went to the conclusion that forest is art. It was in 2014. I was alone in the countryside finishing my theoretical studies. So I want you, by saying that, I want you to understand that I'm not an activist and an ecologist who become an artist. I'm an artist becoming an activist and ecologist. I see myself as a little cat of apartment. I love my books. I love my painting studio. And then suddenly, because I'm becoming a forest artist, I go in the field. I go to plant forests. I go wild, but it's a consequence of my theoretical research. So since I realized that the new art will be an art made of forest, I start to give different examples, and I start to make a PhD in fine art and try to give different examples of what forest art could be, would be, and what I can propose myself inside it. So I will share my screen. I don't know if it's work because I'm not so good at it, but let's see. No.
Yes,
No?
we can see your screen. It's all good.
But you see everything.
You can try to click the green circle. It should go full screen. On your presentation, click green circle.
This one?
Yeah, on that presentation, go to the left, I guess, and there is a green circle, so
yeah.
expand. Yeah, now it should be
Yeah.
fantastic.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So yeah. So this is my statement. It's keep going and you can make maybe a screen capture, I don't know. But what is important for me to say is that I'm an artist. As a forest artist, I'm an ambassador of the forest, and I'm here to make a forest a work of art, to be seen as a cultural artifact, rising up the new global culture. But it's only about painting and optic. I see art as a very polymatic protocol to create spirit, transcendence, and totality. So indeed, forest art will produce forest as sculpture, fertile soil as organic installation, a live performance. It will also create new laws, because when you have a new art, you have a new society, and you have a new law, I-L-A-W, that is created. Because this is art is on the top of the imaginary construction because it's creative new imaginary. So we are creating a new society when we are proposing a new art. So it will also create, of course, classical art as painting, photography, films, drawings on the way, but it will open new aesthetic and new state of mind where the plants the intelligence of the plants will challenge our perception of reality, of beauty, and of life. So in forest art, the artists, they are not talking about ecology, they are doing ecology. They are not talking about forest, they are doing forest. They are not painting forest, they are planting it. So painting a forest in forest art is planting it. This is something that has to be clear in this new movement, where we can see artists who feel that the most artistic thing they could do is to plant the trees. There is artists that think now they were a drawer, like Evgenia, she was a calligraph drawer, and then suddenly she thinks the most artistic thing she could do was to make sanctuary. So there is like this evolution in spirituality, and then suddenly we realize that the ultimate piece of art is the forest itself. And so yeah, planting tree while waiting the eagle's return is like the poetic image of the new economy, of the new culture, of the new world that we are creating together. And what I like about this new art is that the dialogue, it's not me, neither you that is important in the story, it's the dialogue between us that is manifesting in the real. So it's all about vibration. It's the song of the birds, it's the song of the trees, it's the communication between trees. What's funny of our period is like now we talk more about the mushrooms and the communication between trees than the tree itself. The mushroom is taking all the attention right now when we talk about forests. We forget about these high, beautiful, magical, magnificent trees because we want to talk about their communication skills. So I really love our period, which I think it's weird because we are in a very pessimistic period, but what I love about our new art and what I love about our new period is that we are in the time of vibration. We are in the time of sound, which is really new for Occidental society. And we are starting to embrace a new being and being out of the loop of humanocentrism and of patriarchism. And so it's the same for gender, neither female, neither male, it's just communication with both of them. So I wanted to present you my first sculpture. So this is a sculpture I started to make in 2016, 17. So for now, it will be finished in 50 years. So it's a sculpture made about 10 trees. There's 10 little trees growing around the dead palm tree. It's called the new sculpture. And so it is made of, with the centropic system, you have a lot of bushes and trees and plants together that are gonna eat the whole dead palm tree. And they're gonna grow and they're gonna make like a big bush. And this gave me the idea of Fertility Island, and this gave me the idea of, if I can do that with a group of trees, then I can do that with a forest itself. So another vision of forest art, it will be the soil itself. So what if permaculture could teach us some new aesthetic regarding soil? So this is an installation, an ephemeris installation, that the purpose of it is to help the little, you can see the green spot, it's little hooks that have problem to grow in Alentejo in South Portugal that is really dry. And so our purpose was to create those islands of compost with the sticks and the branches we could find around to create this compost art. So you have Andy Goldworthy in England that is very famous to make this type of compost art. So we could see compost art as a total part of forest art, because we are helping the forest to grow. So this is not beautiful. this is also very useful for the plant, and it's also protecting the plant, because during the festival, this is an installation that is for a dancer festival. Because of this installation, the dancer will not walk on the baby trees. And so the baby trees have been saved from the summer festival, thanks to this installation, because the human will see this and will say, oh, it's an installation, we're gonna not walk on it. And so the installation protects basically the trees. This is another example of what can happen underneath about this soil. It's a theater that I made for Cultivamos Cultura residency. So you can see the map in the garden, and what is happening, it's what's underneath. So people, because there is a bio art lab, they could see the evolution in the lab. They could see the evolution of the life underneath, to understand that all those little plants are big trees. So tomorrow it's going to be a big bush growing there. But so they can follow it slowly by seeing under the soil what is happening. So I call it the soil theater, and the real spectacle is underneath. This is a kind of the same example of a compost installation where I joined the bio art lab, where I took a dead scarabée, the dead beetle that I found in the ground, and I put a slice of orange, and I let it putrefy with some myrtile, some berry colorants, and I made him a bed, and I created this sanctuary for him in the garden of Cultivamos Cultura, and where I could make grow some future tree. So all of those are examples. Then this could be a project for the city, like the new sculpture will be made of like Babylon garden, where you have suspended trees as a new urban sculpture. So instead of on the roundabout, instead of having the sculpture of Thomas Jefferson or Marques Pombal or Napoleon, you will have just a bunch of trees on the roundabout. And this is the very innovation I'm making with this forest art, is that what if then the most radical part will be to consider the whole forest as a work of art. So now what I'm proposing to owner is to transform a part of their forest or the whole forest in sculpture. So we are making a contract. So I'm working with lawyers to transform their forest in the sculpture, and then the sculpture is becoming a sanctuary that Evgenia can count in the list, because they are protected forever as a cultural patrimony. So the idea is that with me and just the owner, we can create those areas that are totally protected by law as sculpture and who are made of forest. So of course we have to define in the contract what is a forest. We have to, every contract is specific, because some contracts will allow a path in the middle, some contracts will allow the owner to plant trees, etc. So for now, I'm working with different examples that are mostly based in Portugal, in France, and the US. So the US is more the New York upstate and this zone of around New York. In France is the south to the Basque country, and in Portugal is Alentejo. This is more or less the three regions I'm working on for the PhD and for this sculpture. But this is what I really want to sell as an artist. This is my painting. Now tomorrow I want to sell sculpture that are made of forest. It's a ready-made plant, ready-made sculpture, ready-made forest. It's an object of art, and it is because I delimited it in a map and I sell it like this. So it's not conceptual. It's really a sculpture made of alive trees, of alive animals, of live matter. So you have also the version of performance. So performance is, it's a random practice. basically. So as a forest artist, a painter will always have a sketch to draw, always to train is drawing. For me, to practice is to seed. So for instance, I've made this bento of seeds, and I've distributed the seeds in different places in Alentejo. I'm a tree giver in St. Louis. I made an operation where we offer 3,000 trees to the people to plant them in their garden. I also participate to collective planting with some association as a random exercise as a forest artist, because I'm not here for me to make my work of art. I'm here to help the trees to go and to help the plants to be part of the new landscape. This is what's conducing me to the Forest Embassy. So my radical situation is to have created a flag that is representing the intelligence of the plant. So in the center, you have the seeds, the intelligence is in yellow. So the intelligence is controlling the sky, which is climate change. So the intelligence of the forest is totally controlling the weather. This is why it's controlling the blue. And the intelligence of the plant is totally controlling the soil, which is soil, life, agriculture, etc. And then it's spreading the chlorophyll on the horizons, helping us to breathe. So this flag represents the intelligence, the kingdom of the plant. And I use it to different type of performances. So I'm invited with some artists, some American artists in New York and indigenous people to create a spectacle. So we are working on a new narrative to look for our own indigeneity, to create a spectacle that represents the wild man, wildness, and explore in our own what would be a forest artist in a performative aspect, more than just planting trees, than just go in the narrative and go in the manipulative aspect. So it's about conferences, it's about showing that the painter is dead and its rebirth as a forest artist. We could see forest art between science, art, and shamanism. We could see forest art between ecology, bioart, law art, and poetry and performance. So forest art is something, it's a kind of a new art. It's a total new culture that embraces a lot of artists and a lot of practitioners. A lot of you are part of it. And that is why it's a movement. And that is why when I met Evgenia at the beginning, I was like, wow, she's also proposing sanctuaries and stuff like this, but not the same way. What should I do? And then after I said, no, this is what we are a movement, we are family. We are so few now we have to be together, we have to do something together. And so, for instance, so this different exhibition I've made about soil. So it's another type of embassy. So basically you have the SVA of New York, you have the Museum of Mexico, you have where I look around the museum or around the schools, some elements of the soil, of the forest, and they pay a visit in the art space. And during the time of the exhibition, and after the exhibition, they go back to nature. It's not something that, so it's just a visit of the seeds, of the soil you can find in nature. This is a very interesting project of the Kamis. It's inspired from the Japanese culture, where you have those creatures alive that are spiritual and are half monsters, half nature made of forest. Those microcosms, how a forest can be micro, and how we can work with the intelligence of the plant. The plant can survive in a micro without killing it. So it's very dangerous and very complicated type of work of art, because you don't want to kill the plant. The fragility of islands, the fragility of rivers, you can explore in the micro and understand that humidity is a very key point to make plants growing and plants surviving, and especially those micro organisms and those micro plants growing outside of the river. This is a very funny work with micro snails. So basically, you see on the right, on this part on the tube, you have a micro snail that eat the plants, and the plants is growing fast. And so they create this jelly, this green jelly on the ground. And so it's a closed ecosystem when the micro snail survive in the tube, fighting with the plants. And I call it resizing the snails, because now I put them in a big basin in the garden, and I want to give them their original size, because I didn't make it on purpose, but basically the snail gets tiny to survive in this environment. And so now I want to give them their real size. So it's an ongoing project. So this is a type of example you can have in Forest Art, where you have ongoing projects that might not lead to a work of art. You have photography, of course. So in my photography, I try to look for presence, like a kind of a presence that make me feel there is a spirit inside the forest. This is a project I made with the flowers of Algarve, because it's the project called Bloody Spring Never End, because there's always flowers in Algarve, even in the winter. So it's also because of globalization, and a lot of flowers from everywhere in the world have reached Algarve. And it's a kind of a disaster, because it's showing that Algarve doesn't have winter. So you always have flowers. So it's beautiful, but it's indeed sad. So it's remembering me the Impressionist movement of painting different type of seasons. And now the painter cannot paint anymore the different seasons, because he always have the blooming flower, never ending. This is something I want to talk about. That is why this looks like just drawings, but it's an inner experience that I did with a shaman. So basically, I make a diet drinking plants. And while drinking plants, I start to see my inner selves, and I start to draw what the plants will tell me to draw. So I was in this cabin, disconnected from the world, and from the phone, from everything, just with pens and the plants to drink with a special diet. And I tried to find what kind of drawing I could make with the plants. Of course, I have general painting, and so I'm doing a technique of the invisible with Prussian blue, where you cannot see exactly the landscape. So it's about dreaming a new landscape or a dead landscape. So I all of those questions around. Also about this vegetal sexuality, like about this monstering creature, half humans, half plant, to question the gender that we have. I am a man, I am a woman, I feel like a man, I feel like a woman as an artist. Sometimes I'm a woman and sometimes I'm a man. Maybe it's because I'm a plant, and every plant have both gender. And then I don't know if I rush a bit, because I think I'm short in time, but I want to finish with this, which is the research of the wild man. And this is something I really want to tell to every forest artist, because I heard a lot of little things here and there. There is a big taboo about the wild man, which is about the Occidental indigeneity. So we are often thinking the world as the white person, the Occidentality invading America, and call it America, which is the name of one guy. It shouldn't be called America, but anyway, for now it's called America. And since the 16th century, when the Europeans start to invade the lands of indigenous of America, they start to call them indigenous, and they start to ban and to get rid of history all the indigenous that were in Europe, because they were in Europe indigenous before the 15th century, and they were totally eradicated. They start to be slowly eradicated in the 11th and in the 13th century. And then once the Vatican discovered the New World, they decide to eradicate definitely all trace of indigeneity in Europe. So that is why the Celtic shamanism disappear. That is why our connection with nature in the Occidental culture totally disappear. It's not, and this is a hope for me, because it's not meaning we are the white versus the rest of the world and the white is the bad guy. It's meaning that the war is between the city and the forest. The war is between the citizen and the indigenous. So these two words are very important. We were talking, I'm French, I'm blah, blah, blah. No, I'm not French. I have a French passport, but this is not what makes my identity. What makes my identity is I am indigenous from the forest. And I can be an indigenous from the forest being white. It's not a problem. I'm not a colonialist. And this is very the big taboo where we all are falling in this manipulation. So I believe that every artist of today have to go deeper inside to look their own indigeneity and to re-embrace the contact with nature. And to finish with a quote is Leonardo da Vinci, who is saying that there is no artistic revolution without an observation of nature. And the real master of all art is nature itself. So if we want to be good artists, and if we want to be the artists of our time, we have to go back to see nature. And indeed, it's very interesting if we look at history of art in Occidental world, we can consider all those masters of art as indigenous, because they were always doing that job for us. They were always going back to nature to see how it is, to come back to the city to tell us how it is and how beautiful it is, and this connection we have lost. So to be a radical forest artist is to consider a forest as art, and because I plant it, I make it art. And because I say it, I ready-made it art. And once American artist one day said business is art, he didn't invent business, he make it art. So today I'm doing the same with forest. This forest is art, and I'm making it art because I'm saying it. And this is the awakeness of my own indigeneity talking to you guys. And I really want everybody leave that room questioning where the indigeneity, the own indigeneity inside has been gone, and how he or she can awake it back. So thank you for attention. You can, so this is older project. I once believed that art was love, and now I'm convinced it's forest. And so you can follow also my website, alantod.com, but Evgenia, I've shared it in the event. And yeah, my Facebook, it's the same name, and my Instagram, it's the same name. So very easy to find me, very easy to propose me things. And I wish you a very nice day. And if you have any question, do not hesitate to ask me.
Alan, thank you so much. So I would love to, first of all, say huge thanks for this wonderful presentation. I've heard things that I didn't know before about your work. And it's always great, rather than, yeah, you read on the website, you read articles, but then the artist talks for himself. I think it's very special. Jenny raised the hand. Jenny, would you like to ask a question?
I would like to give feedback if I can now. Okay, so I'm so excited, so I can't wait to talk. I'm very happy that I found this. I just found it yesterday. And it's like amazing, because everything you are talking about and that you are naming, it's exactly what I'm doing. And now you are like giving it a name. And for me, for example, I'm planting trees every day, and I take trash from the neighbors that they throw, because they mix organic trash with all kind of other trash, and I put the plastic trash where it should be, and I take the organic, what they consider as trash, and I take it and I make these huge craters, and I'm like baking like a cake of different compost materials, and then in the end I plant a tree, and then I make these circles that look like the circle that that you were, well, you didn't even show only circles, but I make circles of that gets like beautiful on the top of my arrangements to make soil, and it's just a lot of things, of everything that you say, that I recognize so much. So I'm really happy, and I just started this week in the university in Sweden in a course called Nature and Animal Assisted Interventions. So that's how I found this online conversation, because I was looking for something in Portugal where I want to do my scientific paper that I could like study and follow. And now I'm thinking like, yeah, forest art is exactly what I'm doing, and I really wanted to find something that I'm doing, but I can't do it about myself. It needs to be about somebody else. So I'm seeing that forest art can be totally applied to nature-based interventions and forest therapy. And I think it's amazing. And I loved what you said, that I'm not here for me with the art, that I'm here for the trees, because this is also exactly what I'm feeling. Because I mean, every night I go to sleep, I close my eyes, and I'm planning where to plant what and how it's going to interact. And for me, it's the same as painting a painting, because when I'm painting, which I don't do so much, and I feel like I should be painting because I know how to paint, but instead I'm planting trees. And then for me, it's like an artwork, but I never kind of tell people that so often, because I think they don't understand that what I'm doing is like I'm painting when I'm planting. And then I just got so excited the other day, because I found that one of the plants that it's in Portugal, it's seen as like, you know, nobody, they think it's a unimportant plant. Like it's called, for example, in some places it's called sargasso. It's like a rock rose, and they grow easily everywhere. So because of that, nobody likes them. And then I just happened to find a research explaining how when you have these rock roses planted close to a fruit tree, they make this, well, I didn't learn yet all this. I'm getting so much into mushrooms and soil, but it's kind of new for me too. So I don't know all the correct names, but it was explaining how you can get more fruits if this bush that nobody cares about in Portugal is planted close to the fruit tree, because the roots interact. And again, it was the same thing as when I'm listening to you now, Alan, and to the rest of you also, that I'm like, yeah, but this is exactly what I'm doing. And now I find that it's already somebody else doing it too, and it has a name, and so I'm just very happy and excited about this. Thank you.
Thank you so much for sharing, and let us know if you need more contacts in Portugal. Of course, always happy to help.
I will.
Yeah, thank you very much for having saying this, because it's exactly what I want. You know, I really feel a lot of people are doing. For instance, in the academy, I was talking about this eco village, who were with those artists doing those sculpture with objects they find in nature, and I was saying, this is art. This is part of forest art. And the professor were like, are you telling us that the hippie thing of this weird shit they're doing. They just take a branch and they put it, you consider as a new academic art? And I'm like, exactly, yes, because they are saying it's made by nature itself, and so it's dehumanized. It's very spiritual and very intellectual, and it's more intellectual than what you think just because the guy looked like a hippie. And yeah, I think we have to be together to unite our force, because there is a lot of conservatism. There's a lot of conservatism in art, every generation facing it, and we are the one that is kind of innovating really with what is needed. Basically, an artist is always useful and is always trying to find the ideas that is healing the society. And I think everybody's here is trying to heal the society, and we go for the plants because we want to heal the plants as much as we want to heal ourselves. So it's like we're just doing our job. That's it.
Yes, I also liked what you said about the artist being on the top of the imaginary creation of the new world. And I think yesterday when I was listening to the speech, the recitation of the inauguration by Amanda in United States, it was so hopeful to see that maybe now we can change this conservative right wing and hate speech and get in poetry and get in art instead. So yeah, very good.
Mm-hmm. Beautiful. Thank you. I think we have another 3 people raising hand, which is great. We have more questions. Anna, would you like to ask a question? I think you were next one. Just unmute yourself. Yeah.
Yeah. Hello all, and I'm very grateful for you creating this, Eugenia, and for Alan share, which is I totally resonate. And I would like to, when Alan in the end you said that first you thought love is art, and now you feel nature is art. I would like to add that for me nature is love. So nature is love and love is art, and it's all connected. And because nature is unconditional love, which is for me the core of the universe. And because in nature the plants they help each other, they interact, and there is no conditions, there is no judgment, there is no. And also when we were in the small room, I was sharing that I feel that it's more as and that goes to what you are doing, meets what you are doing, which is seeing that the true work of art is nature. Nature is the best artist ever. Is creation, is true creation. And so I'm very grateful to see and inspired to see that, and as Jenny said, that many people are feeling the same and resonating with the same, which is of course makes sense, because for me we are a collective singularity, a collective experience, and so there is this connection between all beings. So of course when people start feeling something in one side of the world, people are starting feeling similar things in the other side of the world. And yeah, so thank you very much for sharing, and very inspiring.
Thank you, Anna. I would love to see if Christopher still has a question.
I just had a comment on how accurate, or how on I think Alan, are we calling you Alan now? He said something to the about the subject of this. He feels like this is, I don't know if he said he hopes or he feels that this is the time where this is the time for this sort of forum, for this sort of platform on the subject of just horticulture, a forest in general. And, I don't know how many of you know about the latest technology that what they've been finding out through research about how plants communicate. But there was a documentary here that's a 2-hour documentary. I believe it's called What Plants Talk About. And it's the most fascinating thing. And that's a lot of people have seen that. But then there's even later, just in the last few weeks, I believe, in the last couple of months, they've found out even more. And I just can't wait to. I heard that they've found out more, but I don't know what the details are. And I think it's a very exciting time to appreciate nature at this particular time. I've been gardening since I was 5, and I'm like almost 100 now. So I feel that I've waited all my life for this, and it's interesting because of the pandemic. I used to work. I'm changing. I'm going from working in the kitchen to now working in the garden, and it's and that's my dream. But I had just moved back to New York to start to kill myself in the kitchen, and for what? For money? I mean, I guess to pay the rent. It's never been about money. It's been about, my passion, and my biggest passion has always been horticulture. Nothing compares to that. And so, not really a question, but I'm glad that that this is happening, because this is certainly the right time for it. So thank you for being.
Congratulations for changing your life. It's always hard decision to change a life, huh? When
well, I had no choice. I was in New York. I had to go. New York is closed.
Congratulations for escaping the city as well. I wonder how many more people will have to make these kind of decisions, this and next, in the coming years. But I think this is what we're witnessing, because people are appreciating how much support and love nature gives us every day without asking anything in return, just basically not to kill her. And once people really experience that, I think they start making choices towards being as close as possible. And once you move as close as possible, you start hearing so much. And I'm glad that you mentioned that film, and there is a book, and of course that whole plant communication, plant communication as in the forest among the roots, and the underground networks, in the chemical waste through the air, and in many other ways, how trees in the forest and how plants in the forest support each other, the mother trees and the children trees, and how it all works. But more than that, there is so much work and research coming out, and I know Alan is also fully on that, and that's what inspires me personally, is the plant communication that we can have with plants. And of course, all the indigenous people, and including us in the ancient times, we knew it, we had this knowledge, we had this wisdom, we knew how to use it, we knew how to be with it, we knew how to co-create and how to heal ourselves when needed, how to support our life. And plants are givers, they're really ready to give, but we must be also ready to receive. So I believe that move towards just physical being in nature and close to nature already gives us that opening, that space for us, this opportunity to listen, and then to hear something that is being communicated to us. So I'm glad you mentioned that, and I think personally for me, this whole plant intelligence, plant communication will be the topic of this year, like the high place to go.
I have one more sort of kind of on the same subject, which is when a couple of people have mentioned, I believe that when plants, the subject of a garden and plants is brought up to most people, they just sort of think of it as like, what, plants? You're talking about plants, like plants, like as if they are. I mean, baffles me when I'm sitting in a home and I see a plant that is just hanging on to dear life in the corner, and everyone is acting as though, you know, that's okay. I mean, if you had a friend over that it was in that shape, it would be a big deal, and I freak out, and I'm like trying to help the plant. Of course, all I'm doing it is prolonging its, you know, its misery by giving it some water, because then they're, you know. But anyway, I believe that, you know, it's not really so an idea would be sort of to, I've always thought about, you know, introducing gardening in a fun way with the most fun looking plants to kids, to the next generation, because that's how real change, you know, happens. Not, and I'm not saying that there wouldn't be change by trying to, you know, teach or educate adults, but they already have come with preconceived, you know, brainwash, so to speak. And I have a plant that I got yesterday, and the flowers are little goldfish. You show that to kids and they will just die. I mean, I'm a 5-year-old at heart, so I just couldn't, I still can't get, that's my favorite new toy, is my goldfish plant. They look exactly like goldfish.
Send us the picture later on, please.
I will.
Kathleen really wants to say something or to ask a question. I know she's been waiting. Kathleen, please share with us what you're holding.
I'm just so excited. It's hard. It's hard to listen and not want to just reach out and hug all of you and congratulate all of you for coming into this from where you all are, listening to Earth. And you know, Alan's work, I was lucky enough to be in his little group. And so we had a little more of a connection to be able to just listen deeply and share with him also. What's coming up for me is, first of all, and I love you, Evgenia, you know that, and all of the work and listening that you're always doing. The new movement of forest as art and art, you know, forest artists, however we say that, like it feels like it's interchangeable, because forest is us. We're actually the voice of the forest. And I think we have been told otherwise, that we are separate of the forest. And I remember since I was young, I always wanted to, like, I always felt like, wait, listen, this is what I just heard out there, you know. And it was, you know, okay, well, she's the artist. She's going, you know, she's going to start talking about the dream or the imagination or something that seems separate from, you know, the citizen, you know, if you will, just connecting with Alan, that we're supposed to be fit into a specific box. And we're not that. We are forest, we are nature, you know, we have that voice. I feel the creative voice, all of us have. I mean, I know some of us identify with it more, and sometimes it takes a lot of courage to identify with it, because it seems like this thing that has to be of a higher nature than anything else, and has to be, you know, a part of a perfection of expression. And I've always felt since I was little, I'm like, you're an artist too, don't you know that? Like you should express it your way. Everyone has this thing coming through us. And I now work with tree sisters. And what I'm thinking of today, since Alan's presentation, we have planted I think we're close to 17 million trees now in different parts of the tropics. And they're all of our tree sisters and tree brothers. And by the way, I'm making you an honorary tree brother, Alan. And all of you brothers and sisters on here, of course. And I'm thinking, you know, now that is what I was drawn to Tree Sisters for, is because there was this creative energy that I felt emerging from the surface of the work that we're doing, because we're planting trees and empowering the feminine. That voice, you know, it's like earth, art, and heart have always been connected for me in my little 3-word mantra that I've carried for more than 30 years. And it was like, oh, it's all here in this place. And I offered to come in to hold the creativity. It wasn't a position that was already at Tree Sisters. It was one that I came and I said, I see what's growing here. Can we keep evolving it? And I'll take it on, and I'll also, you know, manage the community engagement or whatever is needed. And so, yeah, that's where I'm at. And so now I'm thinking, how can we, because art protects the forest as well. And that's the other real beauty, like of Jennia's project as well. And but if we can actually, you know, bring that movement into our work with our tree planting projects, and that each of these places in the tropics are also, you know, becoming protected through becoming art installations, or at least the part of them being art installations. I'm seeing some beautiful tropical flowers on the screen, which don't bother me at all, that I'm not sure where they're coming from, but they're beautiful. And then just one more thing, maybe they're coming from my voice. See, I'm expressing nature and it's spreading into the screen. But the one more thing I wanted to mention was around the gardening. What I did was, as an artist, I knew that sustainability was important, and it wasn't necessarily that I was a master gardener or a permaculturist, but because I reached out to people who were doing, you know, conservation and protection and all that, that I offered to create and design a garden at the Chicago Flower and Garden Show. And I wanted to make it the very first sustainable garden. And it was they've been doing for 50 years. And there was a sculpture that I made of Mother Earth, and her skirt was, you could see under her skirt, which is like, you know, into the soil. And anyway, yeah, I think that's all. I mean, I can go on and on and on and on. That I really appreciate this, and thank you for bringing everything. And I love hearing from all of you, so I want to hear from more of you. And I love whatever plants these are. Beautiful.
I believe they're goldfish plants.
That's the goldfish. The goldfish.
Okay.
I mean, I'm just dying over they're just, because I also have cat's whiskers, and so my cat's whiskers and my goldfish are just making me crazy.
They're really beautiful.
They really are.
They're really beautiful. We are all saying hello to your goldfish plants.
Thank you.
I would love to ask Alan a question, if I may. So it's a little provocative question, but I will ask it anyway. So what challenges do you feel artists or forest artists are facing generally and with the art world? And what challenges does the art world face with the forest artists? Alan, did you hear my question?
Yeah. I'm not sure I really understand all about the question. I have issues with money, but I think it's like every artist, and each time when you go in innovation, you face you are challenged by the market that is so. It's true that for now I'm selling more painting than I'm selling forest, and but I'm really lucky. I feel very grateful, and I know when we talk together, I complain because it's true that I'm struggling. I have no funding for my PhD because in the academy, nobody understands what I'm doing. They think I'm an EP because I'm friend with the Eco Village. They think some people will think I'm an ecologist and not an artist, and I work with biologists. There's some people that still don't understand that artists work with biology when this practice of 20 years old. I mean, in the 90s, artists started to work with science. So it's 20 years old already. So come on, I'm not innovative. And there is a lot of institution and the market especially that are still very cold regarding those new practice, but they're not that new. Okay, maybe to be radical as I am, it's maybe part of, as we are all, it's maybe a bit new, but it's just radicalism of a bigger picture that is already there since already 20 years, which is collaboration and which is interaction. So I feel very lucky then on the other side that I'm really protected by Cultivamos Cultura and Marta Menezes and all this network of women, the FEM meeting. I will encourage all the women here to be involved in the FEM meeting, which is a movement of women in science and art and technology. I also invite you to get to know about the TTT conference, which is every 2 years, which is a festival of taboo, transcendence, and transgression. So you have a community that is looking for innovation in art, and we are part of it. We are the forest department, let's say, of all this innovation that is happening. So we can be grateful to be in contact together. I feel if we were living 100 years ago, maybe we will not be that easily in contact together. We will have to go to the coffee and drink alcohol together. Mm-hmm. Now we can just drink water and have all our mind to share all this information. But I think it's we have to wait to accept. I mean, we have decided to be artists to go for innovation and to help the society. So it means we have to accept that we will do our part of our time. And so maybe when we will be old, Forest art will be recognized and we will have make money with it. Maybe not. Maybe it will come for the next generation. Because it's time to grow trees. That is why I changed my name and I call myself Tod. Alan Tod means Alan death, because Tod in German means death. So I take away my painter name and I put Tod name to manifest that I will never see my work done. I will be dead before it's finished. And I think to be a forest artist is to accept that we are losing a fight already. that the sanctuary you're creating of Genia, or you're helping to create, you will maybe not see them finished. Most of them. I mean, the trees, Jenny, you're planting. You will maybe some you will never go back to the place you've planted them. So maybe some you will never see them growing, and maybe the one you have planted one day will be the biggest tree of his generation, and it will be a beautiful piece of art, and you will never see it, and you will never know it. You know, so that is why I'm talking about the dialogue. That is why I'm saying it doesn't matter if the work of art is accepted or not by the audience. What matters it exists somewhere, because we are working for future. We are making the anthropology and the archaeology of the future. So we have to find solidarity and today I feel empowered thanks to you, Evgenia, thanks to this invitation. It gave me a lot of hope because I feel people are giving me credit to what I'm doing, and I feel support by you listening to me, so thank you. But it's true that I'm crying, I'm facing very big difficulties, I will be living in the streets soon, I cannot pay the rent, blah, blah, blah. There's always issue about innovating, but it's a spiritual life. So I have the light of God with me. I have the light of creation with me. I'm very grateful for being an artist. I have an amazing life. So yeah, I don't know if I answer really quick, really well, but I think I kind of touched the answer. So.
Alan, thank you so much. And thank you so much for expressing everything so elaborately and naming things. I think it's really important to put the names to certain things for us to be able to communicate what we are trying to do together, not just you and me as artists or the artists who are present here, but everybody together, because I think also the work embraces communities, and we know that work embraces the people. This work embraces organizations, both artistic and non-artistic, corporate associations, governments, local governments. And I think a good thing, what I'm feeling hopeful about, is that artists can be instigators in this kind of work, in this artwork, but then we are all in it together, as they say. So I'm feeling hopeful about that. And I think, yeah, I'm feeling hopeful about this conversation and about this movement. What I would love to say, we are approaching the 2 hours in our beautiful encounter today. And I would love to express my gratitude to everybody who has been present today so far. More people will, of course, see this video and we'll share everything. Alan, could you please put in the chat again your website so people can copy it? And I already put in the chat the next conversation. Just save the date. It will be 18 of February, and it will be with Etienne Verbist. He's in the arts, and his project is called Tree to Manifesto. It's a really beautiful project, bringing together a lot of artists from across the whole globe, working with trees and being passionate about trees. And he is preparing some really, really beautiful insights, and he will share his experience, his work in the art, his work with ecology, and also some of the amazing plants that he's holding for the next couple of years. So if you have more questions, you could also post them here, because the chat will be circulated. And if you want to stay close to the work we are doing with Eternal Forest, I think right now the easiest way is to join the Facebook group, or to follow Instagram or Facebook page. But also you can subscribe on my website. As the Eternal Forest website being currently generated, I need to basically fill it with life. There will be subscription form there, but at least through these elements you can stay in contact. I'll also put my website here. And yes, please spread the word and join our next conversations, which are monthly. And yeah, I'm hoping to see you all very, very soon.
Yeah. Just to finish, yeah, because what I see the comment and everything. There is a taboo about contemporary art. They will tell you contemporary art cannot be an establishment. Contemporary art is so open that it cannot be conservative. It's wrong. Contemporary art became totally conservative, totally established, and we are all here to break the rules.
Yeah, I love that. I think Kathleen wants to add something. Kathleen, you raised the hand.
I think my hand's still up from before.
Oh, okay. Sorry about that. We're all here to break the rules. That would be the last thing.
Yeah, break the rules. Do that.
Thank you so much, so much, so much. And let's share, let's be in contact, let's love each other. Forest is family. May the forest be with you.
May the forest be with you.
With us.
Thank you.